What do you look for when you're hiring someone in the field? Do you look at CVs and covering letters? Obviously, portfolio comes into there. But there's going to be a difference, isn't there, between game dev and programming and art, sorry. But what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, number one, it comes down to trust. Can I trust this person that they're going to do a good job and get the job done? And the best way for you, if you're out there looking for an opportunity in life, whatever it might be, is to find someone and earn their trust. Often, if that conversation is just happening based upon a resume or a CV, then it's really difficult. You're like, I did these cool things. How do you develop the trust in there? So the way you can develop the trust is by going out of your way to do something for that individual, that studio, that community, the company, where you say, hey, I want to add value to you, no strings attached. I just want to do this to show that, I'm a good person and I want to help you out. So what could I do? I could make some assets for you. I could do some quality assurance. I could test a thing. I could help build your community. I could create some content for your Twitter profile. I could do whatever. There's a ton of things. It doesn't have to just be that core task. If you can meet people in person, like if they're in the same town as you or the same location as you, that you can meet up with them and try to develop trust by them seeing you're just a good person. That's why conferences are a great place to go to. When COVID's not a thing, great place to go to. You meet people, you hang out, you have a chat. And, oh, you're kind of cool. Oh, you're kind of cool as well. So that's I think a really important part of the process is developing trust. I look for someone who's making an effort, and in my How to Get a Job in the Games Industry course, I teach a technique which is called the artifact technique. And I call it that because it's a bit of a weird name and it sticks out. Hopefully it sticks in your memory, which the best way to have an artifact is if you get an interview and you turn up. Okay, let me just back up a little bit. I've interviewed hundreds of people for game industry positions in my own indie studio when I was working as a producer and a game director and a CEO, all that kind of stuff. I've interviewed a ton of people. And in my experience, not including the people that I've personally coached, because I've coached a lot of people on these techniques, I would say that 1% of people, maybe one out of all of the people I've ever interviewed, has turned up with an artifact. And what I mean by artifact is they turn up and they say, hey, I knew I was coming for this job in this particular studio where you make, for example, racing car games. And I've turned up with a whole bunch of tracks that I made that I wanted to show you my thought process. And what I've done here is I've got a really long straight, but halfway along the straight, I've put these flags to distract the player because they want to have a really sharp and they talk you through that process. And at the end of that conversation, you can see, I trust that this person could make tracks for our game as a track designer because look at what they just showed me. Look at what they taught. They brought something. They prepared something. And so it's probably out of the hundreds and hundreds of people I've interviewed, there's been maybe one person who's done that. I've just turned up like that. And it stands out so much. It looks so professional. It builds so much trust. It's so amazing. And then when I've been out there as a career coach, coaching people to do this, the success rate is spectacular because people just don't do it. They turn up and they say, okay, you've got my resume or my CV. There it is. What do you want to know? And so as an interviewer, you're like, oh, okay, well, in this job, what did you do? And tell me about a time you had a difficult person you worked with. And okay, it's a job, it's work to kind of figure that out. But when someone turns up and says like, I've already created a thing. I know you guys do this and I've gone and created that and I'm going to prove it to you. It's like, this person stands out. So I use the terminology, you don't want to be apples to apples in a comparison. You want to be the orange. You want to turn up and not have the comparison of, okay, Grant Abbott, he's got 10 years of experience and this other guy has got 2 years of experience. Well then, clearly, apples to apples, we go with Grant Abbott, 10 years. But if Grant turns up and he's like, here I am, you guys, I'm pretty awesome. What do you want to know? I'll just bang something on my desk there. What do you want to know? Then, it's okay, well, let's try to extract. But if someone else turns up and is like, I've made this and I've done that and I've built this and I've gone and talked to all the people, out there in the whatever, in the wider internet about what your company means to them and what they've got out of the games and you do your research and you come really prepared and you create things that the Grant hasn't. I shouldn't have used you as an example, should I? Because you're awesome. You definitely get the job. But Like if you turn up and you've got something, then that is how you stand out. And you know, I'm saying this from the perspective of someone who's interviewed a lot of people. People don't make an effort, and it just blows my mind. They don't make an effort. That when they don't make an effort, I'm like, well, clearly you don't want the job. If I give you this job, what's it? Are you just going to turn up and sit there and wait for me to ask you to do stuff? So you've got to treat your job interview process or your application process like a full-time job. And if you treat it like a full-time job, you work on it for 10 hours a day, you create stuff, you research everything you can about that opportunity, you build things specifically for them, you connect with everyone you can on LinkedIn, you ask about the reputation, you learn the company history, you call up people that you might know someone there, you just contact them all, you try to get in contact with them on Twitter, you talk to the HR person, you talk to the receptionist, just do everything you can so that when you turn up, you are the most enthusiastic, eager, well-prepared person, and you're going to stand out. And people are going to look at you and be like, I want you to come here and do that on my team because we got stuff to do, and you're clearly someone who can do it. So don't be the passive, you got to be the go-getter. That's the whole in all that. Hopefully that's, you can see I love this topic. I've worked with a lot of folks, and I really get a kick out of seeing someone go for it and just like, I get this all the time. People saying, Rick, I applied so many times and so many interviews and nothing. And then I just did an artifact and I prepared and I did this and I've got a whole bunch of other techniques. Like, for example, I'm giving you a whole bunch of stuff now that you probably just like, wrap it up, Rick. But one other thing, if you do have an interview or an informational interview, like a kind of pre-interview, then treat it like a discussion, not an interview, not an interrogation. So you've got to ask questions, the exact kind of opposite of what I'm doing at the moment. If this was an interview and Grant was the interviewer, I'd kind of ramble a little bit and then I'd say, so, Grant, what about you? What do you think is really important in the games industry nowadays? And so it becomes a conversation, not an interrogation. So if Grant gets an opportunity to speak, well, thanks for asking, Rick. Let me tell you about what I think, and I kind of feel clever talking about this stuff, and that's great. Then Grant feels clever, and that's because of me, and then he connects that to me, and it becomes a discussion. We feel like, we're kind of on the same page, rather than I'm sitting there being like, what would you like to know next? Okay, I think that's a very, make it a discussion. How's that? Was there something in there that we could use? Do we have to cut all that out?
That's absolute gold, to be honest. And I think the last, the interview thing we did like this, I had a few people contact me afterwards. So I think they might have even gone onto your, what is your course? You've got a course, haven't you? What's it called
How
again?
to get a job in the games industry? Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, you
they must have
put a
looked
link
at
to that down below so people can check it out if they want.
Will do.
Yep.
But they must have gone to that, and I had a few people contacting me saying, I'd like to do some work with you. And I looked at it and I thought, these are quite good. If I had some work available, I'd be looking at this person, because they've offered me something, and it's a relationship. It's not just, can I have a job sort of thing. And there was more to it than that. They were saying, here's my skills, I'm prepared to do this and build up here, and perhaps we could do, and they gave me options, and I was thinking, wow, this is a possibility. And I'm actually thinking about those people when I'm looking out there and I've got too much on. I'm thinking, well, that person sounded quite good. They had something to offer. So actually, this is absolute gold, really. So well done, you.
That's cool. Thanks for saying that. But they're making it easy for you. And like, you're a busy guy. I'm a busy guy. Everyone out there's busy guy. Employers are busy people. They're busy guys and busy gals. I just sort of say guys to mean everyone, but trying to be a little bit inclusive here, like busy guys and busy gals. And okay, I don't want to get into. I've just opened a can of worms, haven't I? I'm like, oh my goodness. Okay,
you've done it, Rick.
Okay. So people are busy, and I think if someone contacts you and says, "Hi, Grant, what would you like me to do?" You're like, "Oh, well, I don't know. I don't know who you are. I don't know what you can do. I'm busy. I don't want to write out all this stuff." So it's work just to answer that question. I get that a lot. Hey, Rick, here's something that I would like you to give to me. I've got a question, or can you help me, or can you look at my stuff? And I look at that and I say, well, that's work. and it's not attractive. But if someone comes along and says, hey Grant, I've noticed that you've mentioned this a couple of times in your videos that you really don't like doing thumbnails. I'm really good at doing like video thumbnails. I'm really good at doing that. Here's 5 I've created. Just have them. They're free for you because you're a good dude. If you want anything else, just give me a yell. Happy to have a chat. That is such a better way to contact someone than, hi Grant, do you have any work at the moment? You're like, no. So someone's offered value. So, for someone listening or watching at the moment, don't be afraid to give something for free. You have to be clever, right? You have to do the work. This is not an easy process to go through. If you want to reach your dream, if you want to get to where you're going to get to, you can't just sit back and say, okay, well, here's my portfolio. Do you want me or not? You have to treat this like, I heard a really good expression once, that networking is a contact sport. Because you get hurt, you get bumped, you get smashed. You have to be in there like, in there taking the hits. And that's what this is. This is networking. This is reaching out to Grant. You're going to get 100 people now like, hey, Grant, I've gone and created, here's 7 videos I recorded. You just need to kind of do a deep fake to put your face on there. Or maybe people are, I've deep faked you, Grant. Like, here I am. Don't do that. Don't do a deep fake of me and Grant talking. That'd be a bit scary, wouldn't it? But you've got to offer some value. And it's the same for any opportunity. And that's tricky. It comes with the experience. It gets easier the more you do this, but don't be afraid to try it and fail and look a little bit silly, because you're like, cool, that's phase 1. Phase 2 is trying it again and looking slightly less silly. Phase 3 is doing it again and looking still pretty silly, but maybe not quite as silly. And after you do it 7 times, you're like, you know what? I'm no longer looking silly. I'm actually looking like a champion at this. Don't be afraid to look silly, because that's the only way to get to level 7 is to go through level 1. And if you look at level 1 and say, I'm just so afraid of level 1, I don't want to do it wrong, I don't want to look silly, I don't want to fall on my face, then you're not going to get to your dream. You're not going to get to what's important to you. We're not in an easy industry where everyone just gets to have whatever they want. You have to get in there and do a little bit of that hard work, take some knocks, be willing to get back up again. But if it's important to you, you'll do it. If you've got the framework, if you know what it is you're doing, and hopefully some of this conversation has given folks out there some clues and some ideas on that. And I just want to add a little bit to that, is that this is not just for getting a job. This is not just for the games industry. This is for life in general. If you're wanting to, make an impression with someone, then help them out. If you want to get someone's trust, then invest in them. If you're wanting, to get investment, or you're wanting to, asking someone for something, just offer something, offer some value to them, build that trust.